What's up, viewers? Patrick from Bob vs. Only, back with another YouTube video. On this episode number 5 of Prayer Week on Bob verses of the day. And today's verse comes out of John 17, verse 15, and it reads, "My prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but that you protect them from the evil one." And that's what that verse means. And it is time for our Royal Rangers recap. And let's get right into it. So, starting off in Matthew 22, verse 37. This is a familiar passage. This is where this is the greatest commandment. So, give you a little backstory. So the Sadducees and the Pharisees got together, and they basically came together whenever they heard Jesus had, or actually the Pharisees got together after hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees. And one of the people tested Jesus with this question. So he asked Jesus, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Here's what Jesus replied. It says in verse 37, Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind." And then he says in verse 38, "This is the first and greatest commandment." And then he says the second commandment, greatest commandment, is love your neighbor as yourself. So now, sticking with Matthew, going into the main passage, in chapter 5, verses 17 through 20, this is the fulfillment of the law. Here's what it says. "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law, until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven." So now, we're going to go to Romans. And first of all, we're going to go to Romans chapter 8, verses 3 and 4. Here's what it says. "For what the law was powerless to do because it was weakened by the flesh, God did by sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, to be a sin offering. And so he condemned sin in the flesh, in order that the righteous requirement of the law might be fully met in us, who do not live according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit." Sticking with the book of Romans, in chapter 10, verse 4, it says, "Christ is the culmination of the law, so that there may be righteousness for everyone who believes." So now into the deep part of the New Testament. This is the section of Paul's letters. In Ephesians 2, verses 14 through 15, it says, "For he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility, by setting aside in his flesh the law with its commands and regulations. His purpose was to create in himself one new humanity out of the two, thus making peace." And finally, in 1 Timothy 4:13, it reads, "Until I come, devote yourself to the public reading of Scripture, to preaching, and to teaching." And that's that verse. That's the verse portion. And the verse to leave you of today. is Luke 1:37, which says, "For no word from God will ever fail." And that's going to do for the video. Thanks for watching. And until next time again, viewers, in every way, God's way is always the best way.